Annyeong, I'm Chef Atulia. Today I'm gonna show you how to make Kkakdugi, Korean radish kimchi. It's crunchy, it's a little bit spicy, a little bit sour from the fermentation. It is the perfect banchan or side dish to any Korean meal, so let's make it. The first ingredient you're gonna need is 무, Korean radish. You can easily find this at the Korean grocery store all year long, but they are in peak season during the winter months. They taste a little bit sweeter, they're crunchier, they're juicier. For this recipe, you're gonna need about 4 kg or 9 pounds of Korean radishes. I went ahead and washed my radishes. I'm gonna peel the skin off. Peeling the skin is optional. It's kind of like a carrot. You don't necessarily have to, but I like to because it just looks a little bit cleaner. So after you've peeled the radish, sometimes there's a little piece at the end that you need to cut off. Get rid of that. And then you're definitely gonna wanna get rid of the top. We're gonna cut this into small bite-sized cubes, which could be from anywhere from 1/2 inch to 1 inch. It is a personal preference. I'm gonna go for a little larger than 1/2 inch. Cut across, turn it around, and cut into cubes, like that. Place them into a large bowl. We're gonna get ready to brine these. Add 1 cup of coarse kimchi salt. You can get this at the Korean store. It's a lot coarser than regular salt, and this is what you wanna use for any type of kimchi brining. Pour all this coarse salt. For radish kimchi, you're also gonna wanna add a cup of sugar. This is just regular organic cane sugar that I'm gonna sprinkle over, especially because radishes can have a little bit of bitterness to them. Toss that all together thoroughly. Brining them with sugar and salt is going to result in a really nice and crunchy kimchi that will last in your fridge for months on end without it getting mushy. Set this aside for about 2 hours. To make the kimchi paste, we're gonna need to make a rice paste. It's gonna take 1 cup of water, 2 tablespoons of rice flour. This is sweet rice flour. If you don't have this, you can also use just regular all-purpose flour. I'm gonna whisk that together until it's completely mixed. Turn on the flame to about a medium to medium-low heat. You're gonna need to constantly stir this to prevent this from sticking. That looks like it's about done. It's gonna get a little thicker as it cools off, and you wanna let this cool off completely because we don't want the heat of this to cook the rest of our kimchi ingredients. And that's it for that. Just set it aside. The next ingredient we're gonna prepare are the radish tops. This is completely optional. They usually sell it at the Korean grocery store for really cheap, and it adds a nice flavor and a different texture of crunch. If you don't want to use this, you can also sub this out for green onions. I gave these a good rinse because there's usually a lot of dirt on them. I'm going to get rid of this part. Cut this into about maybe like 1 inch pieces. And if you're using green onions, you can also cut them about the same size. I'm probably not gonna use the super leafy part because there's just too much, and the stems are what taste best anyways. For the last few ingredients that you need to chop up on the cutting board before we put this away is an Asian pear. We're only gonna use half of this because look at how monstrous this is. Take off the skin. Get rid of the core. Koreans love using pears or apples and fruit for sauce flavorings. And then 2 thumb-sized pieces of fresh ginger. You don't have to measure it exactly. I think Korean cooking works best when you don't measure things exactly, but have a general idea of how much you need to use. If you get most of the skin off, it's fine. Roughly chop the ginger. Some additional ingredients that you can add to your kimchi paste are garlic. You can add about 4 to 6 cloves to this recipe, depending on how much you like garlic. You can also add about 1/2 of a medium onion to this sauce or paste recipe. I personally don't eat onions and garlic for my own meditation practice, and I don't love them that much. Please do add it if you like it. Making the kimchi paste paste is really easy. We're just gonna toss everything into the blender. Here is the pear and the ginger that I cut up. And like I mentioned, if you wanna add onions and garlic, add it in here. This is the rice paste that we made earlier. I've cooled it down completely. Kkakdugi needs to have some sort of like a umami flavor. Typically, non-vegan recipes, they use fish sauce, shrimp paste, and things like that, but we're not gonna use that since this is a vegan recipe. I am gonna add some mushroom seasoning. This is the mushroom seasoning that I use. You can order this online or get it at Asian grocery stores. If you are vegetarian or vegan and you wanna add flavor to your Asian recipes, this is it. That was 1 tablespoon of mushroom seasoning. This is 2 tablespoons of soy sauce, and then 1 tablespoon of vegan oyster sauce. There's many different brands. I've tried a lot of different kinds and they all taste similar and good. The kkakdugi needs more sweetness than a regular Napa cabbage kimchi recipe does. So I'm gonna add some maesil cheong. This is Korean plum extract. We like to add different types of fruit extracts or actual fruits into our sauces for sweetness rather than just plain straight sugar because it adds more complexity and flavor. That was 2 tablespoons of maesil cheong, 2 tablespoons of sugar. You might use less, you might use more. Do it according to taste because it's all gonna vary depending on how sweet your radishes are. Like I mentioned earlier, if you buy radishes during season, they are at its sweetest. If they're off season, they could be more bitter, so you're gonna need to add more sugar. I'm adding 2 tablespoons for now. Blend this until it is completely smooth. That should be done. The kimchi paste is almost finished. Pour all of the blender contents into a bowl. Of course, we're gonna need gochugaru. This is Korean red pepper powder. I have it in the coarse kind. They sell the coarse and the fine. Get the coarse one for making kimchi. This is a 1.5 cups right here. It could take anywhere from a cup to a 1.5 cups depending on how spicy you like your kimchi. Add that in. Mix this up thoroughly. Okay, finished. There is our kimchi paste. Set this aside until our radishes are ready. Let's take a look at the radishes that have been brining in that salt and sugar. Look at all the extra liquid that has been drawn out from the radishes. The reason why this step is important is because if you don't do this and you put the kimchi sauce right away, you risk your radishes turning mushy from this extra water. Let's drain these off. Rinse off that excess sugar and salt. Get the radishes back into the large bowl. Get some gloves on. I have these ajumma gloves that, Korean aunties, they use this type of glove at home. And it's best if you're wearing like a black shirt when you're doing this. Don't wear like a white or cream top in case you splatter some of the kimchi paste on yourself. Got the kimchi paste. We're gonna add this and mix. Once everything is tossed thoroughly and you've coated all of your radishes, you want to give it a taste for saltiness, for sweetness, and adjust whatever needs to get adjusted. I'm going to add the radish tops. Do one last toss. There is our beautiful finished kkakdugi. It's time to transfer the kkakdugi into the container it's gonna ferment in. You wanna use some sort of large container that is airtight. Gonna get the kimchi, put it into the container, press the kimchi down, and voila! There is the kimchi. Lock it up. Let it ferment at room temperature for anywhere from 1 to 5 days, depending on the temperature of your space. So once a day, you want to check your radish kimchi. Just taste one for the sourness. Once you reach that satisfaction of that 60 to 70% sourness, pop it in your fridge. This is going to ferment further when you put it in the fridge. And you're gonna wanna leave it in your fridge for at least 2 to 3 weeks until this is really ready to devour. Of course, you can have it sooner, but the longer you leave it, the more fermented and the more flavor it's going to develop. If for some reason you finish the fermentation and you try it in a couple of weeks and you're like, it kind of tastes bitter, that means that your radishes were probably a bit more bitter than usual. Then what you can do is toss this into a large bowl and mix up some more sugar in it, and it will get rid of that bitterness. It's happened to me before, and adding the sugar fixed the problem immediately. I'm gonna have some kkakdugi that I made 2 months ago. It's so good. This kkakdugi is crunchy, it's juicy, it tastes really fresh, perfectly fermented. It's a just right amount of sourness that I like. It's perfect. 2 months later, it's still super crispy. I'm gonna try a piece of the radish top. So good. Gotta have it with some rice. Every time I bite into this crunchy kkakdugi, I feel juices coming out of it, like it's a pear or something. And it's so refreshing. That was my last piece of kkakdugi, but I have some rice left, and why not just pour the juice, mix it around. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you try this kkakdugi recipe in your home. Please comment if you have any questions, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you in the next one. 안녕!